Good afternoon, Old Gun Guy here. Today's video I decided to do a shotgun. It's a extremely popular shotgun, the Remington 870. It was made from 1950 until present day. One of the most popular shotguns in existence. It's 11 million and counting copies have been made. It's a slide action shotgun, and it comes in many variants and has come in many different variants, grades, different woods, engraving on a receiver, field guns, sporting guns, military and police type shotguns, riot guns, and all of the common shotgun gauges: 12, 20, 16, 12, 16, 20, 28, and 410, which is not a gauge, it's a bore. And if it was a gauge, it'd be about 65 gauge, but we're not going to go into that. There's been skeet versions, trap versions, sporting clay versions, and you're going to find them in any gun shop from coast to coast. So you walk into a store and you're likely to find one on a used rack. I have two particular examples. I have a 12 gauge, but it's in police or military or riot gun configuration. It's a 18-inch barreled 6-shot magazine, 7-shot. I got a 7-shot magazine tube in this, extended, because it would end here. It's a magazine tube extension. I think it's 6 and 1 in the chamber. 18-inch barrel. The guns are all steel construction. I have a side saddle on this, and walnut wood stocks, four stock, and the butt stock. Nice generous recoil pad. This one was made sometime in the late 1980s, as near as I can tell. And I have a sporting variant. This is in 20 gauge. It's got a 26-inch barrel, and since about, I believe it was 85 or 6, they started the rem chokes. This is a barrel that's threaded on this gun. You can screw in various choke tubes. This has an extra full choke tube in it because I was trap shooting with it. Ventilated rib. It's one of the plainer models. It's got, I'm going to say this is laminated wood. It's strong. And this was made in the early 2000s, before Remington was acquired by the hedge fund company, the Wall Street guys, which promptly in 10 years wrecked it into bankruptcy. The Remington company was in existence, the original Remington company, from 1816 until 2007. That's when the Wall Street people took it over. They started cutting corners and cutting staff, and they really messed up Remington and Bushmaster, which they acquired, and Marlin, which they acquired. 10 years later, 2017, 2018, the company went bankrupt and Remington was dissolved and busted up. Another company has acquired their machinery and operates by licensing the Remington name from Vista Outdoors, which bought all the ammunition part of Remington's business. I think it's Rem Arms LLC, and I haven't handled the brand new 870, but I understand they're pretty good quality, comparable to the original Remington guns. During that 10-year period in 2007 until they went bankrupt, there were some quality control issues in a lot of the Remington guns. They cut corners and move machinery and cut staff, and it just gutted the company. Is very sad. My nephew actually had a shotgun bought in that period, and he had some. We had to fix a few things on it before it run right. It was metal shavings in the gun that weren't removed, and there's a lot of a lot of shortcuts. But Remington had a couple of pumps that preceded the 870. With slide action shotguns. I think the first one was designed by John Pedersen, and then John Browning designed the Model 17, which Eventually became Ithaca Model 37, a different series of shotguns. But design features and derivative parts of that became the, I think it was the Remington Model 31. The Remington Model 10 and then the 31. 31 is a very expensive gun to manufacture, and they weren't selling a lot of them. And so by 1950, post World War II, all the servicemen coming back, booming firearms and hunting, they developed the Remington 870 shotgun. At the end of this, I'll break this down for field strip. I'll just take it apart. I ain't gonna put it back together, to just make the video too long. It comes apart pretty easily, but I'll show you the design feature. It's got twin action bars that operate the, run the bolt back and forth into the gun. Most of the early guns are 2 3/4 inch chamber. The later guns, mid 80s, maybe even 70s, had 3-inch chambers. This is 3-inch. It'll take 3-inch and 2 3/4 inch 20 gauge shells. And this is the same thing, 2 3/4 inch and 3-inch Magnum shells in the 12 gauge. They're all steel guns. The receiver's all steel. This one, being one of the lesser expensive ones, has a plastic trigger guard. The P has an aluminum trigger guard. That's one difference there. But there's many different grades. You can get a fancy grade with fancy wood engraving on the receiver. They've produced many different models over the years. It's very likely, up until, like, say, 2007, they had produced about 10 million or a little bit more shotguns, 870s, maybe 10.5 million, 11 million to this date. So chances are, if you walk into a gun shop, you're going to run across a used 870, and they're very fine guns, very reliable, very robust. Many police departments use them. The military used them in Vietnam. Used by other countries. I believe they were used in Rhodesia when they had the Rhodesian War in the late 70s. I believe Iraq, the Remington 870s made it all the way through Iraq, the Iraq War, and they were used in combat. It's a very fine, very reliable shotgun, very robust. The bolt locks into the barrel extension with one finger. There's like a finger that pops up and grabs the barrel extension. When I pull the gun apart, I'll show how that works. Unlike, say, the Remington 1200, Winchester 1200, Winchester 1300, has a rotating bolt head that locks into the barrel extension. And I believe the modern Mossberg, the same thing, locks into the barrel extension, rotating bolt. Kind of like an AR or an AK or any type of semi-automatic rifle. M1 Garand, bolt rotates into the notches in the receiver. But that's in the receiver. This is locks up into the barrel extension. They really don't need a steel receiver, but they built them with steel receivers. Both these guns have steel receivers, and I think they come out with a lightweight variant, 20 gauge and 28 gauge, and I'm not sure if that was aluminum or steel. There's been so many variants, literally hundreds of variants they've made over the 7.5 decades has been in production. The guns weigh a little different. This gun weighs, as a stand sling and with the side saddle with the shells in it, it weighs 8 pounds. This gun with the 26-inch barrel weighs 7 pounds. Obviously it doesn't have a side saddle. I didn't feel like pulling the shells out or the side saddle off it, but the weight is germane to felt recoil. The heavier the gun shooting a load, a similar load, is going to have the less felt recoil. In physics, the recoil is the same. It's just what you feel. A certain mass goes out the barrel at a certain velocity, a certain recoil force is going to be generated into the gun, and it's how the gun's designed, the stock's designed, the butt pad, the way you hold the gun, whether it's felt recoil or not. 20 gauge has been, it was, I guess, first adopted, the 20 gauge in Britain, United Kingdom, and made its way here to America. It's the most popular gauge besides the 12 gauge in the United States, probably in the world. The 12, and then I would say the 20, and then the other gauges are, far down the ladder of popularity. 12 gauge, if it was a caliber, it's 72, almost 73 caliber, 0.729 thousandths of an inch, almost 73 caliber is 12 gauge. The gauge is referred to the archaic measure of round lead balls fitting in the barrel. 12 round lead balls exactly fitting the bore of a 12 gauge will equal a pound. 20 round balls, lead balls exactly fitting the bore equal a pound is the 20 gauge. The 20 gauge translates to 60.615 thousandths of an inch, so 61.5 caliber. And that's the 20 gauge, the difference. And generally your 20 gauge shells will yellow in color, and I think Sammy specs that. Where the 12 gauge you'll see various color shells, red, green, but the 20 gauge is specced out for yellow, and I believe they did just the one color because it is possible for you to load a 20 gauge shell into a 12 gauge shotgun. It will fall down into the bore, and then if you load another round, you can blow the gun up, a 12 gauge round. So it's something to be aware of when you're handling two different gauges and two different firearms. Both have a trigger pull. I did it on a trigger pull gauge. They're both 6 pounds, which is pretty much on a button, 6 pounds each gun. And they're made in different, this is probably made 20 years later after the 12 gauge A70 I got here. Very reliable, very robust guns. I've had an 870 in the past, which I sold and traded, and same thing with Mossberg 500. I had that sold and traded. But my two 870s I have currently, one's a 20, and I've gone small game hunting with this. It's not my main small game hunting gun. That's a Benelli Monfeltro, a semi-auto 20 gauge. But this is a fine gun. I trap and ski shoot with this and sporting clays, and it's a lot of fun. And they're real good guns. I'm going to do some shooting tests with these guns. Being as we're in a strange environment in 2025 America, the security situation is breaking down. I've mentioned that in other videos. Police forces have been neutered. Depending on where you live in the country, the justice system is not functioning, and you're kind of on your own for protection. So I'm going to fire buckshot out of this 20 gauge and the 12 gauge. I'm just going to compare them, recoil, and I'll pattern them. 5, 10, 15, same target. I'll use one for the 20 gauge and one for the 12 gauge. The 20 gauge buckshot I have on hand is number 3 buckshot. The pellet size is around 25 caliber. Buckshot the most common buckshot load in 12 gauge you're going to run across is 00 buck, and each pellet is 33 caliber in diameter. And I don't know the grain weight of each pellet offhand, but 00 buck in a 12 gauge, you can get it in 2 3/4 standard load, 9 pellet load. Some reduced recoil 8 pellet loads. You can get an express load at 2 3/4 inch with 12 00 buck pellets, and 3-inch magnums with 15 00 buck pellets. The 20 gauge, you're limited to either shotgun slugs or 3 sizes of buckshot, number 1, number 2, number 3. The most common I see around is either number 2 or number 3. Occasionally you'll see number 1 buckshot. In 12 gauge, the most popular buckshots are going to be number 4 buck and number 00 buck. And then you can find the other variants if you shop around. But most commonly, if you're going to run across buckshot and for 20 gauge, it's going to be number 3. And all the 20 gauge buckshot I'm going to use is number 3 buckshot and 20 pellet loads, 2 3/4 inch. Some Remington, some Federal I had laying around. So I'll pattern that from 5 to 25 yards. This particular gun, I'm just going to leave the extra full choke in it. I'm not going to change the choke. This gun's cylinder bore. It means there's no choke, no choke constriction. Choke means it'll keep a tighter pattern at distance than cylinder bore. Cylinder bore, the rule of thumb is every inch of travel, every inch of expansion of the pattern for every yard from the muzzle. So 10 yards, 10-inch pattern, 20 yards, 20-inch pattern, 30 yards, 30-inch pattern, which you're off a human adversary. If you're trap shooter, skeep shooter, you're not a gun person, you pick up one of these used in a store, and it's going to double as your home defense weapon. Will it do the job? Absolutely. I'll do a thermal effects test with the 20 gauge buckshot, 3/4 inch piece of ply, 6 inches of water, 3/4 inch piece of ply, simulating heavy bone, more jugs of water, and see what effect we get. Do a comparative recoil. I have a new chronograph, an Athlon. It's one of them radar chronographs. I like it a lot easier. You just put it on a table and you can shoot over it. And I would never shoot a shotgun round with the conventional chronograph. I was afraid of a wad hitting the machine or hitting one of the legs that hold the reflective screens. So we'll do one, number 3 buck, and most of the buckshot I got is either Fiocchi or I might have some Sullivan below, some old stuff, but they're all 9 pellet, 2 3/4 inch loads, and the recoil is going to be roughly the same when you get into the buckshot realm, but and it actually will be, because I'm shooting at a 1 pound lighter gun. I'm going to pause this camera and then just do a quick, I'm going to reposition this so you can see the gun on the table. I'm going to pull this apart real quick, the 20 gauge one, because to take the 12 apart, I got to pull the magazine tube extension, the barrel clamp off. I got to pull the side saddle off, and that comes off. The 2 push pins that hold the trigger group in are replaced with these Allen pins that screw into the side saddle on a shotgun. It's a hard plastic thing with the fabric sleeves. If you don't want to do any of that stuff, you can get the stick-on shell carriers that you glue onto the side of the receiver with Velcro. They're the latest and greatest fad. So let me pause this, and I'll just pull this gun apart on camera when I resume here. Okay, I'm going to try and do this. I'll be mostly off camera. I'm trying to get the whole gun in. Step 1, obviously, make sure the gun's clear. Got no ammunition in it. Chamber's empty, is on the magazine. You take this knob off. That's holds the barrel on. That comes off. You gotta crack the action slightly like that, and then the barrel comes straight off the gun, just like so. You can buy extra barrels for the 870, and you can get a slug barrel, you can get a short barrel, you can get a longer barrel. You can still purchase them to this day. You see this protrusion? This is the barrel extension that the bolt locks into. This is where the bolt locks into the top of this notch here. There's only one finger that grabs it when the bolt cams up. But the next step is pretty easy. This is your shell release. If you had shells in here, you got to push this lever in. Well, you also got to push this in to take the slide and the bolt out of the gun. So I'm going to turn the gun over, stick my finger in there, push it in, and out comes the bolt and the slide. All right. You get 2 action bars, and the bolt sits like that. And this is the part that locks into the barrel extension. So you're going up and down as it moves. So when it locks, unlocks, and it locks, it's locked into this portion of the barrel right in there. And that's what keeps the gun together. This comes off. You can take your bolt off the little carrier piece, and that's it. That's your action bars, carrier piece. And I clean it all up. Now the other thing, to take the trigger guard out, you're going to knock these 2 pins out and pull the trigger group down with the shell lifter. It all comes out the bottom of the gun. Do that next. See if that goes on there. One, 2. All right, and you get the pin out. I need to take the other pin out. And now the trigger group comes out the bottom. Okay, that's your trigger group. Take that apart to clean it, and it's the inside of the receiver. That's all you have to do to break that gun down. Assemble it in the reverse order. Because I'm running this video a little long, I'm gonna cut this out and go to the shooting. All right, just gonna do a quick little chronograph test with our shotguns. The 20 gauge and the 12 Remington 870s. Gonna use Remington Express 2 3/4 inch, number 3 buck, 20 pellets, and I got a Fiocchi 12 gauge, 00 buck, 9 pellet. Just one shot each, velocity. I would never fire a shotgun over the conventional chronograph. I was worried about a wad hitting and damaging it, but I recently got this Athlon radar chronograph. It's competitive to the Garmin. It's a couple $100 cheaper. It seems to be pretty accurate. So, and I actually could have it on the table, which is in front of me here. I'm just going to use the one camera to do this. I'm going to, let's see, move this back just a hair. And I'm going to fire one shot, and I'll probably have to read out the velocity because I don't want to put a separate camera up there. All right, the 20 gauge first, number 3 buckshot. 1,097. 97 feet per second. Next shot, the 870 Police here. 9 pellet, 00 buck. 1225. So a little bit hotter. And that'll be it from our little chronograph demonstration. It's a nice little item. I like it a lot so far. All right. Okay. Gonna do a terminal effects test. I have 5 jugs of water, but they're not in the usual linear fashion. Well, they are. The one 6-inch jug of water, a fresh, unshot 3/4 inch piece of plywood, simulates heavy bone. 2 6-inch water jugs side by side, because this is a shotgun. 2 more 3/4 inch pieces of ply. They have a couple of hits in them, but they were marked. And 2 more water jugs behind that. As the pattern spreads from a shotgun, perhaps we can catch some of the pellets to see what they do. I'm going to set the other camera into slow motion. I'll put this camera on me, and we're going to use the same 20 gauge Federal 2 3/4 inch express round, number 3 buck, 25 caliber number 3 buckshot pellets. So let me pause this. Okay, I'm 8.5 yards exactly from the target. I'm going to take one shot with the number 3 buckshot 20 gauge at our terminal effect target. The other camera's running in slow motion. That was pretty dramatic. Let me pause this and we'll go take a look. Okay, do a little autopsy here. First jug struck all the pellets and vaporized. Piece of plywood, this was its orientation. This pellet stuck in the plywood, some did pass through. Couple here, couple there, and a big chunk in the middle here. The only damaged little big chunks of plywood out of the on the back and into this second jug, which was on the left side. There's a couple entrance holes, a couple of tears. There was leaking water. I only recovered 1 pellet inside the second jug. Now there's 20 to start out with. Probably a majority of them still on that 3/4 inch piece of plywood. The other 2 pieces of plywood are unscathed, as are the other 3 jugs. No holes, no leaks. So it would be effective on a human bad guy that was trying to harm you. You know, some of the pellets did go through the 3/4 inch piece of plywood after transiting the 6 inches of water, which is a good result. And number 3 buckshot. It'll have less penetrating power inside of a house over a 00 buck. The bigger, heavier pellets will tend to penetrate a little bit more than the smaller number 3 buckshot. But going to our next item. Okay, I'm going to do a little comparative recoil test. I'm going to be using buckshot in the 20 and the 12 gauge in both of the 870s. 12 gauge is Fiocchi 9 pellet, 00 buck. They're 32 or 33 caliber pellets. There's 9 of them. And this is Federal number 3 buck, 2 3/4 inch express load. There are 20 number 3 buckshot pellets, and I believe they're 25 caliber per shot. 25 caliber per pellet, 20 pellets in the shell. I'm just gonna fire 1 shot each, and then I'll go on to the patterning video. So let me get the 12 first, and I'll follow up with the 20. Okay, Remington 870, 00 buck. I think I'm in the picture. Not really bad. This gun is a little on the heavy side, especially with the side saddle. And now the 20 gauge. Actually, the felt recoil on this is slightly more, just subjectively. I think it's because it's a much lighter gun. It's a field gun. I'm going to go into the patterning video next. I'm going to do the 12 first. I got 1 target. The other camera close up on a target. I'm going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 yards with the 00 buck and see if I can keep the pellets on the target. It's a cylinder bore choke. This gun here actually has an extra full choke in it because I was trap shooting with it. We'll see how this performs with the 20 gauge buckshot. So let me pause this and set that up. Okay, at 5 yards, I got the gun. I got 5 shells in here. Fiocchi 9 pellet 00 buck. I'm gonna go 5 in 5 yard increments out to 25. First up, 5 yards. Okay, I'm gonna pause this, move the camera back. Back 10 now. Same thing, center chest. Still nice and tight on there. Let's move this back another 5. Okay, this will be 15 yards. They look like they're all on there. 20 now. Okay, this is 20. And now 25. I'm going to shoot just a little low on a target because it looks like all the pellets are printing high chest. Okay, let me pause this and we'll go up and look at it. It's at the 25, first up 5 yards. Center chest. Still nice and okay, this is the 12 gauge target. Let's see if I can count them here. 1. Okay, I count 41 there. 9 pellets times 5×45. There may be a couple that skated through here. It looks like they're pretty much all on the paper except for this one clipped the wood. I'm going to set this up with the clean target and do the 20 gauge. The 20 pellet number 3 buckshot 20 gauge load. So let me pause this and set. Okay, I got 5 loaded in our 26-inch barreled 870 20 gauge. It's got an extra full choke. This has screw-in chokes, this barrel. I got 1 in the chamber and 4 in the magazine. I took the plug out. So same thing, 5 to 25 yards. Number 3 buckshot. Basically one big hole. Let's go down 5 more yards. Okay, this is 10 yards. Second shot. Okay, this is 15 yards. Now to 20. 20 yards. Now we're down to 25. Let's pause this and go down and look at it. Basically one big hole. Okay, I can physically count 66 pellets out of 100, but I believe all 100 hit the paper. The 5-yard shot is basically just one giant hole. That's 20 pellets there, so now you're up to 86. I don't know if this will come in. I'll hold the paper up anyway. The 25 yards are all pretty much on the paper here. Like I says, I can't, probably 24 pellets went through this hole. 20 from the one blast and 4 pellets from the associated misses. But it held pretty tight. Yeah, I didn't count these. All right. Oh, missed that one there. Missed a few. Missed one there. I'll have to recount them. I'll do that in the summary, and I'll compare the two targets. In fact, I will be going to the summary right after this. So that'll be next. Okay, back for this summary of our Remington 870 shotgun video. Very fine, reliable shotgun. They're both pleasant to shoot. This gun being a pound heavier. With the buckshot, the recoil was similar because I'm firing out of a lighter gun, obviously. But you know, I used the Fiocchi, and the buckshot I had laying around. I didn't have the boxes anymore. It was in a shotgun holder case. I had some Remington 2 3/4 Express and some Federal mixed in there, but it was all number 3 buckshot. It's supposed to be 20 pellet loads, but it could have been 18 pellets. So the targets when I did the patenting test, I believe every pellet from the 20 gauge was in the IDPA or IPSC target. But guns come apart simple, they're reliable, robust. You can get parts easy for them. If you find a good one in a used gun shop and you're looking for one, you're going to get a fine shotgun. I use buckshot because I used it in if you're going to use the gun in a defensive mode, even in a sporting configuration like this, it'll more than adequately do the job. 20 gauges generally have a little less felt recoil, and that was mostly the case with this. I did fire one buckshot load out of the 20, I think when I was doing a recoil comparison, but I might have messed up there and had a 3-inch Magnum shell, the 20 gauge buckshot mixed in with that, so because it actually felt more than the 12 gauge. But then the subsequent rounds when I was doing the pattern test, the recoil was the same or less than the 12 gauge. And like I said, weight of gun, design of the stock, the way you're holding the gun, if you get it in the shoulder pocket correctly, all determines the felt recoil. The actual physics of the actual recoil being imparted to your body is going to be the same, regardless of gun weight. It's important onto the gun. I'm saying it's going to impart the same amount of energy to the gun. The gun's heavier, a little more inertia to get it going. The felt recoil for your body. But that's going into the weeds. Did a comparative recoil test, 1 shot apiece. I was using, like I said, 12 gauge here, 20 gauge here, and I believe Sammy specs all 20 gauges to be yellow. And I think the reason for that is they will chamber and fall down the barrel, but get stuck in the barrel of a 12 gauge, and then if you chamber a 12 gauge behind it, you can blow the gun up and injure or kill yourself or someone else. So keep that in mind when you're handling 2 different types of ammunitions for the 12 and the 20 gauge. That's something to always keep in mind with that. And being one color makes it easier. You got a yellow shell, you got a 20 gauge shotgun shell. Did the patterning. I don't know if I did the 20. I'd have to look at the film. The 20 or the 12 first, because I do these over a couple different days. The 12 target. There's one target. I started at 5 yards and then went back to 25 in 5-yard increments. This is the 12 gauge target. There should be 45 pellets. I counted 41. However, it's possible the other 4 pellets are through here, or I did lose one, maybe. I mean, I got one that clipped the edge of the paper, but I don't think I lost 4 pellets, possibly 1, and that's with cylinder bore out to 25 yards. Obviously, the close, big holes are the wads going through the target, and the buckshot being pretty dense. Repeated with the 20 gauge, 5 shots. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 yards. Extra full choke. That was the first shot, that giant hole there. A little buckshot went through that. I counted 70 hits in this thing. If there's 18 pellets a load, that would make sense. It would be 5 times 18, it'd be 90. So every pellet's in this piece of paper. The first one, everything just went through in the one giant hole. But the pattern's pretty tight, and you get some little drift off to the left here. But I had a full choke in this 20 gauge, and it says EF. I believe it's extra full choke. Hold a nice tight pattern. I did a chronograph, my new Athlon chronograph. It's nice. I could put it on a table and stand above it and behind it, 3 feet above it, and it records perfectly. The 20 gauge buckshot, number 3 buck, was doing just about 1,100 feet a second. I think it was 1,097. And the 00 buck, the Fiocchi Italian stuff, 9 pellet load, was doing 1225. I only did 1 shot. I would never chronograph with the old chronograph shotgun because I'm afraid of damaging it with either a wad or an errant pellet hitting some part of it. The chronograph did the terminal effects test with the 20 gauge buckshot. Never did that with the 20 gauge buckshot. 6-inch jug of water, 3/4 inch piece of plywood, heavy bone it simulates. I had 2 jugs of water side by side. Another 2 pieces of plywood as a backstop. First jug vaporized. The 3/4 inch piece of ply was struck with multiple pellets. Some blew clean through the plywood. 2 here, there's 1 there, 2 there. Some of the pellets are stuck in the plywood. One of the jugs, facing toward the left jug that was behind the initial piece of plywood, it had number 3 buckshot in the water. It was destroyed. The right jug was fine, and so were the 2 jugs behind it, and the plywood behind it was not struck by anything. So the pellets either, I believe half of them probably stuck inside this wood here. You look down, you can see the black and lead thing, so they're stuck in there. Some went through the plywood and some didn't. It's good effect though. It'd be a bad guy trying to hurt you that would do the job in your house. Like I said, sadly, you have to consider these self-defense situations in modern America now. Like I said, they've wrecked a lot of police departments across the country, and the criminal justice system is not functioning in certain parts of the country. And we got criminals and lunatics running wild. But you're likely to get a good deal if you find a used 870 in a store. And like I said, there's lots of aftermarket parts for them. You can dress them up or make them tactical if you want, or get synthetic stocks if you don't like the wood. Like I said, there's many variants. They had camouflage versions, very high polished, high-end versions with high polished blue and nice engraved hunting scene. As far as the gauges, 16 was a real popular gauge for many decades. It's pretty much out of favor now. It's still around. A lot of guns were made in that gauge. It's the sweet spot between the 20 and the 12. If you acquire one of them, obviously the ammunition is going to be not as plentiful. If you're going to get one in 12 or 20. That's the most popular gauges. If you're an upland bird hunter, you can get it in 28 gauge. If you're a trap shooter or a skeet shooter, 28 or 410 gauge, 410 bore, I should say. And you're a real sharp shooter when you're hitting skeet and trap with a 410. That's like an expert's gun for doing that kind of recreational shooting. I think that's all I got. I don't know, I'll figure for the next one, but I figured I'd do another shotgun video, because I mostly do rifles and pistols. I try and mix it up, but I'm Old Gun Guy. Like and subscribe if you like the content, and have a good evening.